Hey, I'm Brad, and this is the B-Rad podcast. Thanks for being here. I've created this so that we can experience the awe, wonder, and curiosity of being human. For many years, I carried the sense that something was wrong with me. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't fit all the pieces together. My faith tradition promised acceptance from the divine, but I often felt this separation. He's over there, and I'm over here. So I decided to leave the path and the tradition. But what if leaving the path actually is the tradition? What if there's more going on here than what I was led to believe? Now, I know that separation is just an illusion. There's nothing wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with you. We've simply forgotten who it is that we are. It's time for us to wake up to this divine reality, having eyes to see what has been true the whole time. It's from this heart space that I meet you here. I invite you to step off the familiar path, where together we can be radical in our becoming. Hey everyone, I'm Brad Taves. Welcome to the B-Rad podcast. I'm in Salt Lake City today as I record this episode. We just finished, my wife and I were here for the doTERRA Global Convention. We've been here for quite a few years in a row, and I'm just feeling so much gratitude for the alignment that we have with this amazing essential oil company and something that's much bigger than just an essential oil company. So I'm here, and prior to coming here, I was thinking about the next episode that I wanted to release. And after spending a few days here, I can kind of tie everything together, and having the experiences here has helped me kind of put the bow on the present that I want to give to you here today. When I started this episode, or when I started this podcast a couple of years ago, and reflecting back on it, I'm not sure what I was thinking. And I say that because I don't think that I have, when I think of my strong suits, I don't think talking is necessarily one of those. I grew up as a musician, heavily involved in the music world. I like to read, I like to write. Fairly quiet person by nature. You know, if I'm in a room of people, and especially the larger amount of people, I won't say as much. If it's smaller, maybe I'd be more inclined to connect with a few people that I want to talk to or that they want to talk to me. But generally speaking, I don't have a lot to say. I don't have a lot to communicate. And that's not because I don't feel things, or it's not because I'm not thinking about stuff. And for all the introverts out there who might be listening to me talking, you probably understand that. And sometimes the outspoken people don't understand the people who don't like to speak as much. And that's okay. You know, it's all right. We can all be together, and I know that women typically speak more than men. I think that's a statistical data piece that for some reason women have just more to say. They maybe been more encouraged, more conditioned by culture to communicate. But for whatever reason, I am learning myself how to communicate. I'm learning where communication comes from, and so this episode is really tied around this idea of something to say, something to communicate. And the way that I want to do this is I got 3 songs that I want to share with you, and some of them you might have heard before. And I also have one experience of mine that might have something to say about this as well. So the first song is John Mayer's song called Say, and it was featured on the movie The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman, who is probably one of my all-time favorite actors, and Jack Nicholson. And if you remember a bit of the storyline, these two guys meet through circumstances. I think the Jack Nicholson character is super sick, he's super rich, and for some reason Morgan Freeman meets him. I kind of forget how that happened, but they end up traveling around and they fulfill a lot of these things on their bucket list that they've always wanted to do, and they didn't have a chance to complete in their life. And there's a lot of things that come up for them in their relationships with their family, and particularly with Jack Nicholson's daughter. And there was a fracture in that relationship. And there's one line, a couple lines from the song I want to read to you. It goes like this: even if your hands are shaking, even if your faith is broken, even as the eyes are closing, do it with a heart wide open. Say what you need to say. And that last line is repeated over and over in the song. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. So even if you're unsure and you're afraid and you want to make amends with someone, or you need to tell them how you really feel and it's been bottled up for a long time or a short time, you can feel uncertain. You can feel shaky in your body. You can be uncertain if how it comes out is not going to be how you intend. You can do it imperfectly. There's no such thing as perfect communication. Even as I hit record and I do this episode, the things that I say, the ums, the stumbling over words, I guess for me, I'm choosing to do this because I believe that there's something that I want to share, something I want to communicate with you who's listening. And so I think the message of that particular song and just what I read to you is that even if you are feeling that way, you can still do it. And do it meaning you can still communicate. You can still let the words come out of your mouth. You can still say what you need to say. And if you're anything like me, sometimes you'll be sitting in a room or wherever, on a chair or walking or whatever, and you're thinking about what you're going to say to that person when you see them, or you're rehearsing the script in your mind of how you want it to come out. I don't necessarily think that's wrong, for sure. I don't think that's unhelpful, and maybe sometimes I know for me, I'm trying to collect my thoughts, right? We kind of hear that phrase, we want to think about what we want to communicate, and so that's great. But in the moment, we may not say exactly everything that we had just rehearsed in our mind 5 minutes ago, and that's okay. When we watch the news, for example, that can be scripted, right? They've actually written out everything that they need to say. But if you're watching the news, does that feel relational? Does that feel like they're truly connecting with an audience? They're connecting on one level. Yes, they're communicating and they're doing their job to communicate what's happening. But it's not necessarily heart-driven, per se. Their heart is there in the process, but it's not like this, I'm going to just share openly with you. I'm going to do it with a heart wide open. And it's going to sound a little cracky, a little fumbly, a little edgy. I'm not going to say maybe exactly how I wanted to say it, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm just going to hit record. I'm going to record this episode. I'm just going to walk up to you and tell you how amazing you are. Or I'm going to sit down with you and ask, it's okay if I'm honest with you. Can I kind of share with you some of the pain that I'm going through? Recently, over this last week, a friend of mine came up to Donna and I, and she shared some of the pain that she's going through. And I so respected her and loved her for that. The fact that she felt comfortable enough to communicate things that have been difficult for her. That's hard for many of us to do. And that's okay. But can we have the courage and the bravery to say what we need to say? So now let's segue into the next song. And it's called Brave. So did you catch that bravery? I was trying to be clever. So Brave by Sarah Bareilles. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. And she wrote this amazing song called Brave, and I'm going to read a bit of the bridge lyrics. She says, "Innocence, your history of silence, won't do you any good. Did you think it would? Let your words be anything but empty. Why don't you tell them the truth? Don't let your words be empty. Why don't you tell them the truth? Say what you want to say and let the words fall out." I saw this song being played, or heard the song being played at another convention that I was a part of, and just the placement of that song was right after a speaker who was talking about the need to speak up in places in our world and in our lives where things need to be communicated. People are being harmed. People are feeling unsafe. If we are to be silent, we are maybe grabbing arms with the enemy, the enemy of negativity, the enemy of pessimism, the enemy of things that are not the truth. And I know for me, there's a temptation to be quiet, to be silent. And there are many moments where it's so good to be quiet and silent and to go inward and to reflect. Fantastic. But not all of our lives is meant to be in that solitary, silent mode. There are times for us to speak up, to communicate, to tell people the truth. Another thing that comes to mind is this convention that we were just at. Emily Wright, who is one of the executives of the company, she's a woman who I've respected for a long time, and she was the closing presenter, as she is most years. And just to see how brave she was to step on the stage in the face of critics in her own life, some of them even family members, who don't get her. They don't understand why she's doing what she's doing. And yet, even in spite of harsh criticism that has brought her to her knees, she is still deciding to speak her truth. She's still deciding to not be silent and to go full force with what her heart is leading her towards. Now, I want to share with you an experience that happened. It's actually while I was here. And I've been focusing a lot on these energy centers in my body. A couple episodes ago, I talked about the chakras, and you can just call them energy centers. And they're located specific parts of our body. And so for me, I was thinking about my heart and my throat in particular. And right now, I've got a bit of a rash on my neck, and I don't know where it came from. Still trying to help that along and to heal. And the moment that I had a meditation was, I felt, and I've been feeling this for a couple months now, where when I center in on this beautiful heart that I have inside of me, I can really feel this energy happening. Sometimes there's an actual vibration. My hands will start to shake, or I can feel my heart exploding. I can feel it up the back of my neck. And so there's a physical sensation. And in this moment, I didn't necessarily feel anything physical, but I could picture this like vibrating or almost like erratic type energy that was emanating, or it was coming from this heart center. And as I've been thinking and pondering about this episode, I thought to myself, okay, my throat's kind of got a rash. First of all, there's like a physical symptom. I know sometimes my throat will get sore. And I also have this fear of speaking, fear of being heard. So I'm going to allow this vibration that I feel in my heart. I'm going to crack open a door or something to allow that energy to flow from my heart up to my throat. And so as I did that, I could picture almost like streams of light. So you know how if you've got a room and you got a light, like a sun ray coming in, and there's dust particles in the air, and you can sort of see those faint lines. That's what it looked like to me. It was like there was shafts of light that were kind of being illuminated somehow, and it was coming from my heart up to my throat. And then what I did is I just kind of placed my hand on my throat, and I placed my hand on my heart, other hand on my heart, and I just allowed this energy to flow. I didn't want to constrict it. I didn't want to bottle it up. I didn't want to just keep it all in one place, but I wanted to share with my throat what my heart was feeling. And I allowed those two to kind of merge together. And then at the end of the meditation, I had this prayer. I was like, okay, God, can you show me what oneness is? I want to know what oneness or wholeness feels like. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I just had that experience. So the thing I was asking for, I just experienced. I felt this oneness of heart and throat together. They were partnering together. And the energy that I felt in my heart, I allowed my throat to receive. Your voice becomes powerful when what you say carries with it the presence of your heart. I'll say that again. Your voice becomes a very powerful thing when what you say carries with it the presence of your heart. And I don't know how you interpret that, and your experience or experiences don't have to be like anyone else's. They don't have to be like mine or any other person that you hear talk about maybe something similar to this. But in your own way, I would encourage you to feel into this center of your heart, which is this beautiful, amazing place that is metaphorical, it's literal. And when you allow that energy to move up, and it can move to other parts of your body too, but when you can move it up into your throat and you allow that to coat the cells of your throat, it does something. There's a synergy that takes place. And then when the words come out, the words carry the presence of your heart. And all of a sudden your words become something very powerful. Now I want to end with one more thing. I've got another song to highlight, and this is a newer artist that I came across recently through a friend of mine who recommended her. And her name is Lauren Daigle, and the name of the song is called You Say. It's an amazing tune, and one of the main messages of this song is that in a world that is full of communication, full of things that are being said, some of the most unhelpful, destructive, damaging pieces of communication are the ones that are happening within ourselves. Here is the first verse from that song. I keep fighting voices in my head that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. And am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Can you connect with any of that? And I know I can. Even in the ways that I feel like I've grown in my life, I'm an older person than I was before. I feel more grounded. I feel like I have a healthy relationship with love, with people, with the divine. I still feel a lot of what she just said in that verse, that I don't measure up, and that there are voices, there's sentences, there are paragraphs, there's a narrative and a story that is on repeat within me, and it wants to shut me down. It wants to make me second guess who I am. This is a human tendency. We all have this, I know, to some degree or another. And yet the message of this song, I want to read a little bit later on, is that is not the truth. That might be the fact, right? The fact might be you feel this way, you can hear it being said to you, you have past memories of other people saying terrible things about you, criticizing you, being sarcastic, putting you down in public, humiliating you. It's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you. So whether it's an outside voice that you've internalized, or it's an internal voice that you've deeply internalized, there's a lot of messages. There's a lot of stories that we keep repeating over and over. But later on the song, she says this: the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you, I find my worth. In you, I find my identity. When I don't belong, you say I am yours, and I believe. The first couple songs that I mentioned, John Mayer and Sarah Bareilles, they are songs about what we say. It's what we want to communicate. Even when we're shaking, even when we're broken, we do it with a heart wide open. We are telling people the truth. We don't want to be silent. We want to let the words fall out. We don't want our words to be anything. Don't let your words be anything but empty. So those first couple songs is really like a communication from us out to other people, and even a communication to yourself. The internal dialogue you have with yourself, saying those things. But this song is flipping it, and it's saying, who is speaking over you? what is coming to you, not what is coming from you, but what is coming to you. And I believe that however you frame this, however you picture this, much has been said over you. Much has been communicated to you. And much of it is fantastic. It is the message of you are worthy. The message that you are loved. The message that you are perfect. Exactly as you are right now. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be accomplished. And words have been spoken over you and into you. Much like the creation story that we find in these Hebrew scriptures of God spoke and said, let there be light. Let there be this. Let there be this. And he created out of speaking. There was a sound that was created, and that sound carried energy, and something manifested. And we are part of that evolutionary cycle. We are part of that infinite loop of love where the divine has spoken, has said something, and now we are here. And now we exist. And now we carry the energy of the words that have been spoken over us. And like Lauren Daigle is saying in the song, remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. And she doesn't say this, but I have forgotten. I have forgotten who I am. I've bought into these other things that people have said. I have bought into what I have said about myself. But I need to be reminded of just who I am. Because she says, in you I find my worth. In you I find my identity. And that worth and that identity it's your true self. It's the you that's true. It is the divine self. And I would argue it's also the collective self. Our humanity is fraught with lots of problems, lots of atrocities and injustices and pain. But I have to believe that even as a collective, even as a collective group of people around the world of this humanity, and even the earth and the animals and anything that's alive, which is essentially everything, that all of us collectively, we belong to each other, and we all have worth, we all have identity. And that part might be harder to see because we just see maybe too much of the other. But I think, and trust me on this, that there's something of the collective that also is the wholeness. It's the oneness. But even if that's too far of a stretch, even within yourself, even with believing what the divine has said over you, even the true self that is speaking with you, over you, with the divine self, maybe that sounds like it's going in circles, because it is. There is something that has been said to you. There is something that is true that has been spoken into you. It lives inside of you. It's not separate from you. It's not anything that you have to do to attain. You don't have to go to school for it. You don't have to be intellectually smart to receive it. You just have to have a heart that's open. You need to have a heart that's willing to accept the truth. And when you do, something that has been said to you becomes the means by which now you have something to say. Thanks for taking the time and listening to what I had to say. I hope that you will be reminded that you too have lots to share, to communicate. So whatever takeaways you've got, put that into action. Crank your heart wide open and have that bravery to speak your truth and to remind yourself of what has been said over you. If you want to listen to any of those songs, again, John Mayer, Say, Sarah Bareilles, Brave, and Lauren Daigle's song, You Say. All great songs. Really, really fantastic. The music that you heard was coming from me. And that's it for now. Hope to have you join me next time. Thanks. Bye.